Welcome to FAB Conversations. I am Sonu Bhasin, and FAB is, of course, families and business. My guest today is a second generation millennial inheritor of the family business. Anand Baldawa did his MBA at NYU and then worked as an investment banker in the US and London before joining the family business. And he says that his decision to leave his job and join the family business came about gradually. And I am looking forward to hearing more about this in our conversation today. So, welcome, Anand. Looking
Thank you very
forward to
much.
the conversation.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Great. So, Anand, you say that it was your parents, mom and dad, who started the business way back in 78, 86.
86, that's
In
correct.
86.
Yes.
And it's quite unusual because in the many family businesses that I have worked with and consulted with, it is unusual to find a husband and a wife together as true partners in the business. And 86 was, way before this whole buzzword around women empowerment and gender equality started. So how did the setting up of business take place, and how is it that both your parents got involved in this?
Sure. So I think obviously I was a little kid back then when all of this happened. But if memory serves me right and the stories that I've heard over the times, uh, we moved back from the Middle East. My dad was employed over there with multiple companies for a decade or more. And at some point in time in his life, I think he always wanted to come back to India, whether it was to set up base here or to be with his family over here. So I think they made a decision to come back, not really knowing what they will do. Again, these are from stories, but they didn't have a plan saying India, we'll come back to India and we'll do business or stuff like that. And at that point in time, it was capital was not abundant, so basis what we had as a family, and we come from a big family background. What we had as a family, I think the most convenient, most economical option was to take as many members from the family to grow the business. And I think like many startup stories, I think that's how Seeba started, from sort of the living room of the house where mom and dad took care of it. Dad was the manufacture I wouldn't say manufacturing, but dad was the marketing person, the front of the organization, and mom was the pillar. She was the back end of the organization. So I think that's how it all started. I mean, it was not by it was not by choice. It was sort of by chance. There's no other option out there, so we should start with that. So I think that's how it is. And mom is quite an entrepreneur in her own right. I mean, she wouldn't tell that, but I think she is quite the star. So
Yeah. So you said that you were a little kid when it all started, but you've also told me that a lot of your summer holidays was spent in dad's office. And you also say that you hated it back then. But now that you're a dad, you take your own daughter and get her to spend time in your office, right?
right.
So clearly, something worked for you at that time.
Oh
So
yeah.
what was it? What now looking back, how did it help you, spending all that time in dad's office?
I mean, look, I fully agree. When it was happening in real time, you don't like it. In hindsight, it is probably one of the best things that happened. Uh, so two or three things. One, obviously, because more time at home or in the office meant less time outside creating nuisance. So that was one good reason. So I wasn't breaking window panes or stuff like that. The other part, now that I look back at it, I think the way it helped me is just um, it not in exact clear ways, but it definitely helped me understand the importance of planning, understand the importance of scheduling. Dad is quite a stickler for punctuality, so understood the importance of punctuality. Understood the importance of, if I have three things to do, what is the most convenient way. So operations management at some level, saying, Pele, I'll go to destination one, then destination two, then destination three, because that is going to be the safest, not safest, but fastest route for me, and the most economical or the most operationally efficient way for me. So all of those things, understanding a little bit about banking systems, although it was very, very basic at that point in time, but at that point in time, understanding, अच्छा ये LC बड़ा important document होता है. Not knowing what an LC is, not knowing what it means. All I knew is that an LC is a very, very important document. And that took me to this stage, and I'm like, okay, now when I'm hearing some of those words, it's sitting in the system. It's probably in the DNA now, a little bit of the punctuality, a little bit of, let's just plan. Let's not just jump into anything. So I see that email communication. My dad was again very, very focused on, when you're talking to the customer, you've got to have everything prepared. So the preparation, the soft skills. I don't think the hard skills is what I really learned, but I think a lot of the soft skills is what I think I learned in those days, which helped me to date.
And hopefully your daughter is also picking up the same
Yeah,
from you. But
yeah,
that, I guess you'll just have to wait some more years before you find that out. So,
yeah,
even as a kid or during your growing up years, was there any overt pressure from your dad? Because you are the only son in the family.
yes,
You have
that's right.
two sisters. So, was there over this कि बेटा ये तो तुमने ही संभालना है, तुम अभी मतलब इसी पे ध्यान दो? Was there some
No,
pressure?
no, not at all. Thankfully, not at all. No, never. So I think what happened is I was also clear, and he was also reasonably clear, saying, yeah, nothing is going to come to you on a golden plate. So even Seeba is not going to come to you on a golden plate. Earn yourself the right to probably be here, or the respect to be here. So dad has brothers who are also in the family business. So it was, anyone's play, and sort of merit based at that point in time. So when I went studying, I clearly remember back in 2004 when went for my MBA journey. I told dad, Dad, 4 साल में वापस आ रहा हूँ, 2 साल पढ़ाई करूंगा, 2 साल काम करूंगा, and I am back in 4 years. The four became 5, 6, 7, 8. I think it became about 9 or 10 when dad said, Boss, ये वापस आना is just a mirage, or is that going to happen? So no, not till I came back, and even after I came back, it was not like, this is the only thing you got to do. I think doing the family business or taking over the family business uh, was one option. Joining other businesses or doing something else or doing something on my own was other option. And I think somewhere it was more around, I would love if you do this, but I will never force you to do this. So the emotions were there, but practicality probably prevails over emotions, or rationality prevailed over emotions, perhaps.
But did you keep your connect with the family business even when you were studying and then working?
I did, yeah. So
Wow.
thankfully, our family business at that point in time, even till date, is a lot export focused. So whether I was in the UK or whether I was in the US, I would end up seeing dad when he was coming for his business trips. So when you're out there, there's only so much. Sometimes I believe there's only so much you can chat. So you end up talking about the business, क्या हो रहा है, क्या नहीं हो रहा है, काम पे क्या चल रहा है, and business में क्या चल रहा है. So I was connected, and for about 2 years before I actually officially joined the business, I was slightly more deeply connected, which was, dad would CC me on all emails that he's sending out to important customers. I was in the loop of what's happening on the manufacturing side, margins, shipments, a little bit of, I was on the periphery. I was not involved in the business, but I was on the periphery just trying to understand what's happening in the business. So for about since childhood, I think even when I was studying, I had a fair idea of what's happening in the business, but it definitely the last 2 years, slightly more active peripheral involvement. So, but not active inside involvement, perhaps.
So as I hear you, it seems to me that you were an insider outsider with the privilege of having known what the inside was. So when did this realization dawn on you that maybe just maybe it made more sense for you to step from being an outsider and step into the thick of things? What made you decide that?
I actually very vividly remember this. This is a flight from London to Chicago. So one of these trips, when I was for those 2 years, I was in London then. Dad took a pitch stop in London to fly to Chicago. I said, if you're flying on Friday, coming back on Monday, I'll take 2 days off and I'll come with you. I'll give you company. I'll drive with you. Both of us love driving. So I said, if nothing else, I'll just be a chauffeur. And on the flight there, both of us were sitting and just again chatting in the flight. And I really remember talking to him saying, okay, tell me more. I like, what, these are the number of shipments we're doing. This is the number of customers we have. These are the kind of products. And then again, obviously, the factual thing moved into what's the opportunity. So I was like, what, can we do more? Um, uh, I don't want to blow my own horn, but thankfully, being in banking for a few years, what happens is what questions you want to ask to understand what opportunity there is.
And
So I'm
sorry,
like, so
knowing what an LC was, did it help you as an investor?
it did in a couple of places at least. I said, yeah. I mean, you almost jump on. I know what an LC means. So at least you don't look dumbfounded, perhaps. But it did help. I think in a couple of places. I think business school. Some of these things helped a lot because when you saw people from other countries or other geographies come in, and thankfully, schooling in India is very different from schooling abroad, right? So our schooling was ye karna hai, you got to achieve so much versus other schooling is I'm taking a break after my 12th grade or whatever it is. So it helped in business school. And then coming back to this flight, I remember I was like, okay, this is what we're doing. Now, how much is the opportunity? And dad is obviously telling me, ye bhi kar sakte, hai, we can do this. And I'm like, okay, fine. How much of this is low hanging? So he said, you know what? A lot of this is actually is low hanging. And that's when it sort of dawned on me saying, you know what, it can be done. It didn't look impossible. So that was probably the first, seed or first thought in my mind saying, you know what, it's not that bad. There is quite an opportunity. I've always wanted to come back to India. For some reason, I have never, even when I went studying, I never really thought कि वहाँ पे settle हो जाऊंगा and all of those things. It sounds good, but that was never the plan. So, and I had been out of the country for 8, 9 years then. So I said, you know what, this is not a bad time to try it out. अगर चल गया तो very good. नहीं चला तो at least, I'm not going to have that regret in life saying I should have done that. And I tried, either I succeeded or I failed, sort of a thing. So that one flight was probably the inflection point at
The
some level.
life-changing flight.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So Anand, there are many inheritors of family businesses who go abroad to study, both for undergrad and then postgrad. And most of them like to say that they'd like to get some outside professional work experience and they stay on. I mean, if they've gone to good institutes, they do find good jobs there. And then they get caught in this hurly-burly and the lifestyle. Some of them even get married there. And then when they even think of coming back to the family business, it's not an easy decision. Now, since you did make that decision and you were married at that time, weren't you?
That
Can you
is right.
take us through the mental process of decision making? Because I'm sure, many other inheritors who are currently pondering over all of it would love to hear from you about this.
Sure. So it's going to be jogging or going down memory lane, but I think two or three things that I did. One was very clearly made it in my mind. I think, most of the things are in our head. And obviously, that's when we are starting to compare the family business to life outside. Uh, uh, if I have to think of it, Manushi and I were married, I think about 4 years by then, and she had a very fine job in London. Uh, our choice to come back to India was obviously twofold. One was both our respective parents were of a certain age, and we wanted to be a little closer to them for, God forbid, whatever happens, happens. Uh, that was there. And the other reason was that, there is an opportunity, there is a business idea, and there is something that can be worked on. Her father is also a business professional. He said, let's do that. The mental process at some level was, it all happened actually reasonably quickly. So I know in Jan or Feb, I made the decision, or Manushi and I made the decision. And I think by April, we were over here. My second most important flight was I took the last Kingfisher flight to India. So that is probably a memory flight. But I'll tell you, the one thing both Manush and I agreed with each other is to say we're not going to point fingers at each of us, saying I did this because of you. We're doing it because both of us want it, and both of us also, not promise or something like. Both of us also said we're not going to look back saying "wo acha tha." In a very cliche way, God gave us eyes in the front. Let's look in the front. Let's not look in the back, sort of a thing. So that's probably the only thing. So although there were a few times after I came back over here, which felt like, what, that was better. I made a conscious choice saying I am not going to compare my previous life to my current life, primarily because they are not comparable. At the moment I'm starting to compare a professional life in investment banking in a developed country to a family business, second generation entrepreneur in a developing country, and an SME business, much established business, you're not comparing apples to apples. It's different, and you're never going to be satisfied then. So the mental strength, perhaps, of not telling our parents that we are here because of you, of not telling each other that I am here because of you, and not telling yourself that I was better there, is probably was the best thing that happened to us in the first 2 years. There were ups and downs, no doubt about it. But the way I thought of it is, boss, this is part and parcel of life. If I was in a corporate job in London, I would probably crib about politics over there and glass ceilings and all of those things. Now this is my business. At least here, I am writing my own destiny, or a major chunk of it. So that, I think, was the mental process that I went through uh, um, back in 2012. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, your dad may have been delighted, must have been delighted that you came back. But it's not easy for a patriarch to give up control, even a little bit of it, right? But you said that your mother made it possible for the transition to be painless. So, how did she do that? And as a corollary, would she have been able to do that if she was not part of the business? She was just, a regular homemaker?
I so I'll answer the second question first. My personal view is, I think yes, and not just because she's my mother, because I think every mother can probably do that. They are, much smarter negotiators than I think the world values them as. So I feel my mom would have done it, or any mom would have done it for that matter. Uh, she was a big, so I mean, dad and my character as such is we're both strong-headed, and obviously, one person is thinking, saying, listen, I've got the business to this far, and the other person is saying, I want to take the business this from here to there. And my standard discussion with him is, two people can't be driving the same car at the same time. One can be a driver, one can has to be a conductor, but there can't be two drivers. So we used to, in some places, I think we used to headbang each other, saying, "नहीं ये ऐसे होना चाहिए, ये ऐसे होना चाहिए." Whether that is very typical first generation, second generation, call it trust, call it delegation, call it efficiency, optimization, typical loyalty versus efficiency in the family business. All those debates where you are. And plus, the other point in our family business, the uniqueness was the family business was dad's business. He founded it, was run out of the same house that we were living in. So there was one floor which was the office and one floor was your house. So we were in each other's faces 24 hours, pretty much. So there were some of those instances where then mom used to come into play, saying, "Look," and I think her common sentence along these lines is, "You've done it so far. You've proved it." To my dad, is like, "You've done it so far. You've proved yourself to yourself and the world that you can manage a business." He's left what he was doing and he's come and he's trying to help you over here. Let him do what he's doing. You do what you're doing. And, while tempers would fly high sometimes, I think eventually dad and I came to a point where we knew we both need each other. So whether I am that, I wouldn't say necessary evil, but we both had our strengths and both had our weaknesses. So that's the comfort level we found, and so both understood the way we are working. But mom played a big role. So whenever these one-off moments would happen. They've happened far and few, thankfully. But whenever they happened, I think mom used to play a role saying she would, I think mom just comes into the room. So both of us cooled down. So she would just, her presence in itself is like, अब बस हो गया तुम लोग बैठ जाओ हो गया. So that is, I think, the role that she plays. Uh, yeah. So yeah, I guess I don't know if that answers the question, but
Yeah, yeah. And what you're saying is not very different from what a lot of other people have told me. That women are the most undervalued in family business, especially because the amount of backroom negotiation that happens, if you can call it that, conflicts that are handled, managed, sorted out by them is phenomenal. So while they may not be in the frontline business, I don't think
yeah.
any family business can be successful if the women are not there as the support of the business in whichever way they can. So we've talked a lot about your business, the Seeba Group. Just tell us, what is the Seeba Group and what is it that you do? And you said that you did bring about your stamp on the business. So what did
Uh,
you bring about?
Still trying, uh, which is, I guess, what I would always like to say. But so, family business, we are into the kitchen products business. If you are envisioning a home kitchen, remove the modular kitchen part of it. If you exclude the edible stuff that we are eating and remove the electrical stuff that we are operating or using, everything else is us, which means the cookware or the products in which you are prepping your food, the products in which you're cooking your food, the products in which you're serving, dining, storing, or drinking your food. That's where the business is. The business is sort of split into two parts. The legacy that I took over from dad was our contract manufacturing business. So we are a contract manufacturer for premium kitchenware products around the world on one side. And then having joined the business about 3 or 4 years ago, we then started looking at, while we were doing contract manufacturing for the rest of the world, we are also sitting in India with 1.4 billion people and a market that is growing, and a market where the kitchen is becoming the center of the home. I mean, in till about maybe 15 or 20 years ago, the kitchen was one corner of the home, and now you're getting into that integrated open plan, open kitchen living. So we said, why don't we address this market? And that's when we decided to become agency partners for international brands who wanted to come to India and Indian consumers who wanted international brands. So we are now, again, within the same kitchen space, we are agency partners for about 18 global brands and growing. So yeah, so the business is broadly contract manufacturing on one side through our own manufacturing facility, and agency distribution on the other side, where we import and we distribute to the hospitality sector, we distribute to wholesale clients, retail clients, online, offline, just about sort of the one-stop shop.
Yeah. So, working as an investment banker would have been quite different from being a manufacturer, trader, exporter of premium kitchenware. But are there any learnings from your IB days that you carry with you and you follow them in your work even today?
Yes, Excel and modeling for sure. So that helps. That helps a lot. I would say that presentation of ideas or thought processes in a more clearer way, which I think I must have learned a lot of that in my banking days, which is sort of everything that I try and do is like, let's present it like it's an official deck. Let's present it, whether even if it's internal, but let me present it in a way where the person receiving it is understanding what we are saying. Because otherwise, I feel a lot of the SMEs is like, हाँ मैं सब यहाँ पे है, मेरे को पता है सब, and bringing that process down. And I think with the team, I constantly the importance of planning is something that I think comes through from the investment banking days. Because we used to do perhaps say selling a company or taking debt on or going to the debt markets. Everything is structured, is time bound, and then you kind of work backwards. So that sort of planning, the ability to also connect the dots, being part of M&A, one of the things which also, okay, there are these companies and there are these investors. How do you connect the dots? So that I think a lot of those small but very very crucial things is what I've probably picked up from those days.
Yeah.
From
And
the banking days. and patience, I guess. Sorry, no, and patience and the ability to work long hours and not get tired. So yes, I think those are the good memories or good experiences that I have.
And let me just flip the question. Anything that you do now as part of family business or running your own business that you wish you had done when you were an investment banker?
Oh, been more, I would say probably been a little more open with my views. I think at that point in time, you always feel that, you're a junior guy or a mid-level guy in a team uh, from India. You haven't traveled much or haven't done enough or whatever it is, and then will your opinion matter? That I think over the years I've realized is that being in many meetings now, it's like, this is my opinion. I am right to have an opinion. I don't want to enforce it on you. That I think is something which I wish I had done back then. Uh, would have been far more rewarding for myself only. Um, I don't think other than that, managing a team has been part of the place. So I think probably that is one big thing.
Yeah. And the last year has been traumatic for all of us, and the pandemic has tested, I think, almost all of us. So during these, last 18 odd months, what is it that you have learned about your own self?
Very interesting. Uh, I'll probably talk of it. About myself and my team. I think what we've learned is we are far more resilient than we think we are. Or we sometimes I feel we give in far too quickly, saying ये नहीं होता है. And that mental strength that we have is probably a little more than what we think we have. That's probably one of the biggest things that I've learned, uh, in these past 18 months. That is one thing. The past 18 months, the other thing which I think we've learned is that we always have preconceived notion. There was a very big preconceived notion saying office ke bina kaam hi nahi hoga. So it was just, I mean, that's the way the world was. And now we realize that, within a week or 2 weeks of us getting into lockdown, I'm talking about last year, March, uh, work was going on and we were working the same number of hours. So uh, people were not self-pitying themselves. People are not saying, I'm stuck. Everyone was doing their work. The whole world shifted, business shifted, but thankfully, nothing got impacted. We definitely got dented, but not bruised or damaged, perhaps. Uh, so that I think is the two most important things. Saying this whole thing about ये ऐसे ही होता है versus ऐसे होता था, पता नहीं नया कुछ हो सकता है. So that is sort of the biggest learning I've had for myself, my team. What I've had for myself is also one more thing, is sort of being a little more empathetic. I unfortunately, something which I am learning is and that is something been my biggest learning. Looking at some of my employees and understanding their point of view. Not all of us come from the same social background. So understanding that has been a big learning for me, which I don't think would have happened had the lockdown not have happened, because we would have run business the same way and we would have not had a chance to look at that side of the world also at all.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with you that, the pandemic has taught us all a lot. And each one of us has learned something new about ourselves and abilities
Yeah.
that we never thought existed in us, or survival techniques that we never thought that we would ever use. So hopefully in another 10 years, when we look back and romanticize about the pandemic and tell our grandchildren, I mean grandchildren for me, hopefully, and more your
Yeah.
children, that oh, those pandemic days, yeah, it
Yes.
taught us
Yeah.
a lot. We
Yeah.
so hopefully, keeping fingers crossed that we will do that. So you said, and this is the last question, you said that you gave yourselves 2 years and you are here today. So clearly there is something in the business that has kept you invested, and I don't mean financially.
Yes.
So what is it that excites you about the business, and what is your vision about the business?
Sure. Actually, this reminded me when you mentioned something, reminded me saying what out of the banking days I miss here. Salary is probably one thing which I will mention. So, uh, obviously, the decimals have moved forward and the currency has changed. So, so that is jokes aside, but yes, 2 years has now become nine, and I am actually more charged than ever if I have to think of it. Uh, what keeps me charged is just the opportunity that lies, and not just the opportunity for me or the opportunity for my family. At some level, now we're a 150 people strong team. The opportunity to grow with all of them and to help some of them grow. So I keep telling them, saying, look, I am actually closer to retirement than I am, and you guys are closer to starting your career. And not trying to sound too big or from any perspective, but I'm saying I want to make sure each of my team member is much better than what I am, and I am at this age. So, giving them that opportunity, which luckily I had some of it, but there are a lot of others who did not have that opportunity. So, giving them that opportunity, looking at the space, helping people grow. So it's not the real, and I mean it when I say it's not the real business, it's not the profit that we're after that is getting me to the business. It is the excitement of working with people who I am seeing grow. For example, Krishna is a guy in our company, and he started off as an office boy. Today is an export manager. That brings me immense happiness. That mere karan, that 1% that I was able to contribute to someone else's life, and there are multiple examples like that. And that is sort of uh, the the adrenaline rush that I have, which is every day you're coming in here 9 o'clock. I'm like, I have 10 meetings, no problem. I'm going to power through these 10 meetings. That's probably what has kept me going on. I mean, no doubt. Obviously, there is a kitchenware as a segment in India is a huge market opportunity. I'm not getting into the consulting world and getting into the number game, but I think it's more the soft skills, the ability to build people, the ability to build teams, the ability to build people not just financially, maybe also emotionally, maybe also intellectually. That probably is more important for me than anything else. So I keep telling them, saying I want to retire as soon as I can. So I want to make sure you guys can do what you are doing or do more than that.
Yeah. So what you've just described, academics who work in the area of family businesses call it stewardship, because they say that family business owners have to evolve. Family business owners have to see themselves as stewards of
Yeah.
not only their lives but also of the lives of the people who work with them. So clearly you're getting there, and it's been a good journey for you, and I wish you all the best for the coming years and the coming
Thanks.
decades, and hopefully we will all look back and romanticize about this time, and we will also hopefully meet up soon and have
Indeed.
face-to-face meetings, which hasn't been possible. So my biggest regret of the last 18 months is that face-to-face meetings haven't happened,
I mean,
but
that is true.
Zoom meetings happen, and that's
Yeah.
like that small window that opens up. So good.
Yep.
Thank you, Anand.
Thank you.
Enjoyed my chat with you as always, and have a great day and have a great week ahead.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you very, very much. And yeah, if there's anything else I can help anyone, very happy to. So thank you very much.